Hey, this is John Carlos, and I'm here with a look at the Funko reaction toy of the Rocketeer. Now, I got a little overzealous and just opened this up and started playing with it right when I got it. Before I remembered, I should probably do a review. But here's a look at the artwork, which is kind of like a retro-style 80s packaging, and I kind of dig the way that they laid that out. But let's take a look at the figure itself. Now, I picked this up at Beach Ball Comics, which is part of Corner Store Comics, and I looked at about 5 or 6 of them in person in the store. And it's a Funko toy, which means that there's going to be some random paint issues to be on the lookout for. So if you're hunting in person, I recommend you look out for clean paints of the little gold buttons that go across the front of his coat. Also look for random paint smears. I saw a bunch that had like dirty chests with brown paint lines. I also saw some that had really gnarly arms. I don't know what causes this, if it's multiple layers of paint or what, but it was all bumpy and gross. Some have better paints on the knuckles than others. Some that I saw had a better belt line than this. The reason I picked this one up, it had cleaner hands, it had a clean chest, mostly good buttons, and it had the cleanest face with a decent hairline painted on. But be on the lookout for stuff like that. Also be on the lookout for the helmet. There is an edge that goes across like the mold edge. This one's decent. Some are more apparent than others. Some are smoother than others. But this helmet turned out pretty good from the front. Of course, against the card you can't see that black and that black paint line there, but what can you do? One of the things that turned out really good on pretty much every figure I saw was the rocket pack, which is just really well done. The silver paint's clean, but look at the sculpting on this. It's really good sculpt considering this is supposed to be like a retro style figure. I think all the little groove lines there and the lines on the little engine, the black part here, and I love that they included the sculpted piece of gum for the little hole in it. The fact they included that gum, kudos to Funko, because that's an awesome little detail. Another awesome little detail is the back of the figure has like a little rivet area. I mean, these could have just been like brown straps that connected to nothing, but the fact that they sculpted an area for the rocket pack to connect to, that's a fun little detail. One that you probably won't see when the rocket pack is on, but still, good job to them. It is worth noting that the buckle on his sleeves looks good though, so good job to that. Now this face sculpt looks absolutely nothing like Cliff Secord actor Billy Campbell. But considering this is a quote-unquote retro figure, that means it's a stylized figure and it doesn't have to have the likeness, which is a cop-out or a style choice. I'll let you decide. One thing worth noting though is see the plastic color of his skin? Every figure I saw, his neckline, like this thing is painted brown. The actual plastic is skin color, and they matched perfectly. I picked the one figure that had to paint the neckline in instead of matched with all the others. And I knew that when I bought it, but again, everything else was painted better, so I was willing to take the hit on that neck piece. And then here's the helmet. It fits over his head, which is cool that it's an added piece. I mean, technically, you know, he takes the helmet on and off in the movie, and that's cool, but the only bummer is it is considerably bigger. It's not really the right size compared to the rest of the figure, but you just have to take that and sort of deal with it if you want to get this figure. I mean, overall, it's not awful. It's better than having, you know, the helmet not removable, because that's a fun little feature to have. However, he looks way better with the helmet on, so maybe some of you wish the helmet was just a sculpted head after all. Now this whole reaction line started when Super7 got the original 34-year-old molds from the Alien figures that were never produced, and we're going to make the original vintage Alien figures brand new, but with the old molds. Then they teamed up with Funko to not only release those wider, but to launch a whole reaction line where they're going to make old like 80s or late 70s vintage figures for all sorts of properties. Now, there's two ways of looking at that. One, it's a fun, cool, retro approach because a lot of people grew up with like these older, early 80s 3 3/4 inch figures. These are kind of like G.I. Joes and old Star Wars figures. Or you could view it as they can produce figures but not worry about good sculpts, and they can sort of get away with, you know, crappy likenesses and crappy sculpts, and they get away with it because those figures back then weren't that detailed. I kind of fall halfway between the two camps, a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B. I dig the retroness of it. I was a child of the early 80s and I did play with toys like this, but I do see that like all the face sculpts and face likenesses and just the details aren't really up to snuff either. So, whatever. Take that for what it is, but I probably won't be getting any other figures in this line just because of the cost of them. I don't really think it's worth it to get all these kind of simple figures. But there was no way that I was going to pass up the Rocketeer. That was like my big exception because the Rocketeer is one of my all-time favorite movies. And unlike some of these other toys that are coming out, we have never really had a proper Rocketeer figure. there was like a bendable toy when it came out, and I had like this little suction cup toy. They had like a little suction cup on the back, and he was sculpted. He had no joints, and I just ripped the suction cup off. But having this in my hands, you know, as flawed as parts of it are, but as awesome as the stylized other parts of it are, I'm just glad to have an actual Rocketeer figure in my collection, because that's flippin' awesome. So thanks, Funko, to that. Thanks for watching.